This could be the game that determines who makes it to Indianapolis. This could be the game that determines who wins the final Big Ten West Division Championship. Can this vaunted Iowa defense slow down the Big Ten's top rushing attack in Wisconsin?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
Growing up in Wisconsin in the era that I did, kind of the mid to late 2000s and into the 2010s, you saw a lot of consecutive victories for Wisconsin over Minnesota. So this game, the Badgers Hawkeyes battle for the Bull, battle for the Heartland Trophy game, really became that competitive, tough, physical series when I was growing up. And this is a game that I always look forward to, Badgers and Hawkeyes, and this is one that I am really excited about on Saturday. For my money, I think it's the game of the week this week in the Big Ten Conference because there is so much on the line. When you look at the rest of the Big Ten West right now, I think they're at a notch or maybe multiple notches below both of these two teams. Not saying that these two teams are outstanding, not saying that these are great football teams right now, but when you look at it with the 7 teams in the Big Ten West, I think these two teams are on another level when compared to the other teams in the division. So I think both teams have to know how important a head-to-head victory is in this matchup. Now, there's one thing outside of the X's and the O's, outside of the offense, the defense, and the special teams that could really come into play, and it's the weather. In Madison right now, looking at low to mid 50s for the temperature, but we could get some rain. We could get some rain, definitely in the first half. Maybe it leaks a little bit into the second half, which really plays into my key for this game. And I know it's boring, and it's kind of a Big Ten cliche, but whoever runs the football better, whoever wins the trenches, it's an Iowa-Wisconsin game. The more things change, the more they stay the same, it seems like in Madison, Wisconsin, because this Wisconsin team is the top rushing offense in the Big Ten. We've heard it before, but Tanner Mordecai and Phil Longo, and I thought this Wisconsin offense was maybe supposed to open it up a little bit more. I think they realize that there's still a lot of Paul Chryst personnel, and if there's Paul Chryst personnel, there's Brett Bielema personnel, and if there's Brett Bielema personnel, there's Barry Alvarez personnel, and that personnel loves to run the football. They like to stack things in the middle and establish the run game, and that's what Wisconsin needs to do. Because when Braylon Allen is successful, Wisconsin as a whole is successful. It all the way started back in the spring game. Right, when Tanner Mordecai threw all those interceptions back when it was mucky and rainy, kind of like what it might be on Saturday in this matchup in Madtown. And then when they started to run the ball in that spring game, things got a little bit better and Badger fans started to take a deep breath a little bit. That's where I stand in this game. But when you talk about Wisconsin running the football in this matchup, you got to take on a really good Iowa defensive line. That Iowa defensive line and that Iowa front is very good, not only in rushing the passer, but in terms of stopping the run as well. I'm very curious to see this matchup, the Wisconsin offensive line against this defensive line, the Aaron Graves of the world, the Deontay Craigs, the Joe Evans, the Yaha Blacks, guys like that against Wisconsin. Can Iowa push, get on the other side of the line of scrimmage? Because in this type of environment, in this type of weather, if you can at least contain this Wisconsin run game and force the Badgers to throw the ball, we'll see what happens. And I think the same goes on the other side of the ball, especially on the other side of the ball when the Hawkeyes have the football out there. I'll get to that in just a minute. But I think the big thing when you talk about containing and keeping this Badger and rush game in check, and Braylon Allen specifically, you got to talk about these linebackers, because I know these guys aren't Seth Benson, they're not Jack Campbell. Nobody's going to be, especially Jack, a generational linebacker that came through Iowa City. But Jay Higgins right now, first in the Big Ten in tackles. Nick Jackson, the transfer, fourth in the Big Ten in tackles right now. These are linebackers that can get after it. And when you've got a big physical back like Braylon Allen, you need to wrap him up. You can't have missed tackles. You can't let him build momentum on a run. I think that's going to be a big-time key in this game. You look at it from the other side of the coin as well. For the Iowa Hawkeyes, they need to run the ball more than Wisconsin. At least Wisconsin has a quarterback in Tanner Mordecai that can do some things through the air. Although maybe this past game for Wisconsin, these receivers aren't as good as maybe some people, including myself, thought they would be, they still got a quarterback back there that's capable of doing some things. When you look at the Iowa Hawkeyes, Wisconsin transfer Deacon Hill, it doesn't look great if they can't run the ball, right? If Caleb Johnson can't get it going against this Wisconsin front, what do you do, especially in a game where the weather could kind of dictate the way things go in this matchup? So for Iowa, you need to get a push up front. Although Wisconsin's defense is slowly but surely making improvements, they're making strides, this is an Iowa team that I believe could have some success running the ball up front against the Wisconsin Badgers. They could, not saying they will, but there is something there where they could have success, and they need to have success. You saw it last week. Those big chunk runs for Caleb Johnson may have been the difference in the game against the Purdue Boilermakers in Wisconsin, I believe, and they proved it on the field in a head-to-head matchup a couple of Friday nights ago that Wisconsin is a better team. I think a much better team than the Purdue Boilermakers here right now. When you talk about the weather, I think one other thing that you really got to keep an eye on is turnovers. And there's two guys, one on each of these defenses, that can really create turnovers. First, you got to start with Ricardo Holman for Wisconsin. He leads the Big Ten in interceptions with 4 right now. And although maybe his numbers aren't at Holman's level, or maybe it tops in the Big Ten right now, you always got to keep an eye on Cooper DeJean, the turnover machine. Nearly had a pick 6 last week. That was his second interception of the season. And when Cooper DeJean, it could be in the punt return game, when he gets his hands on the football, dangerous things can happen. And when this offense is playing like it is, and if this offense can't create a steady running game, maybe getting the ball into the hands of Cooper DeJean on special teams, see what he can do on defense if he can take the ball away. Getting the ball into Cooper's hands, that could maybe be the difference in the football game as well. Like I said at the beginning of this, I know it's cliche, whoever runs the football better, but in a weather type of environment like this, it's also who protects the football better. Both teams, I think both defenses have done a pretty good job at creating turnovers this week. We know, although Tanner Mordecai, you'll take those 3 interceptions. 3 interceptions through 5 games. Coming into the season, he kind of had this knock on him. He's kind of turnover prone. He's gotten better over the last couple of weeks with that, but it's going to be all about turnovers. This Wisconsin offensive line, I think, is going to be tested. This Badger run game is going to be tested as well. I think this is going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a good old-fashioned Wisconsin versus Iowa slugfest on Saturday at Camp Randall Stadium. This is going to be a Big Ten West Classic. That's the way I see it. I don't see Tanner Mordecai having an outstanding. I don't see this as a breakout game with him throwing the football. Because you look at Wisconsin's wide receivers, I think they've got a solid bunch, but I don't think they've really exploded the way we thought they would. And then you look at what Iowa has in the secondary as well, with the guys that can that can force turnovers, that can cover pretty well back there. I think one key thing to really focus on, and they were really good last week, that Iowa pass rush. If Iowa can dial it up again and get Tanner under pressure, and get to him, and I know he's got good mobility, so that second level of the Iowa defense needs to be good. They're going to have to keep an eye on Tanner Mordecai, but if they can get pressure on him and kind of keep him in that box, that could be an advantage as well for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I can't wait to see this matchup. I believe the winner of this game will represent the Big Ten West at the end of the season in Indianapolis. It's going to be a fun football contest, a classic Iowa-Wisconsin matchup in the battle for the Heartland Trophy. Want to hear what you guys think of this matchup? Who takes it? Hawkeyes or Badgers? What are the keys to victory? Leave your thoughts, score predictions, things like that in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.